Wow! You used to be able to get into Alton Towers for just £2.50? What a bargain! Alton Towers. It's probably the first theme park I ever went to, and for many kids growing up in the UK, it was likely their first theme park too. It's quite famous the world over. Chances are you've either been to or at least heard of Alton Towers, especially if you live in the United Kingdom. For a lot of people, it's a magical place, full of rides and attractions, and even I still have fond memories of it when I visited it as a kid to this day. From its opening to present day, the park's created a number of world-famous rides and attractions, such as the Haunted House, the Nemesis roller coaster, and the Oblivion roller coaster with its near vertical drop. And if you can remember it, the old Swan Lake ride. That was a big guilty pleasure with a lot of people. But like a lot of theme parks from around the world, the park didn't just rely on its own branding and creations. Over the years, there have been partnerships between a number of companies and organisations to make special themed attractions, from Coca-Cola to Cadbury chocolates. The partnerships were not just limited to selling guests chocolate or drinks. The park also partnered with entertainment licenses, such as the BBC and Big Sky Studios. Most of the time, entertainment partnerships come and go. As a character's popularity begins to fade, or a ride becomes old and run down, the park will often re-theme these attractions to give them new life. A lot of these partnerships are either a single small attraction, or a part of a much larger experience. But one partnership in particular is quite unique. Unlike any other partnership, Sega's Sonic the Hedgehog has made repeated appearances at the park across 2 decades. From a small supporting side attraction to a fully themed roller coaster and hotel suite. So let's take a look at one of the most elaborate partnerships that Sega ever took part in, as we take a look at the history of Sega and Sonic the Hedgehog's partnership with Alton Towers. The year is 1994. The Channel Tunnel has opened. VHS is king, and the original Sony PlayStation was set for release. In March of that year, Alton Towers opened its 94 season with 2 new attractions, Nemesis and Toyland Tours. Set on the site of its old Around the World in 80 Days attraction, Toyland Tours took guests on a boat ride around a crazy toy factory. The ride was split into different rooms, which depicted different toys, full of jokes and sight gags, with accompanying music, often remixed to sound like the main Toyland Tours theme music. It proved to be a popular attraction. Kids would sit in a boat as they were taken around what felt like an epic showcase of some of the most popular classic and modern toys, with many parents also appreciating the sight of the toys that they had also grown up with. The ride included scenes of a giant pink elephant, a snail-electric racing toy, which replaced all the racing cars with snails, bouncy castles, which literally bounced up and down, huge robots, teddy bears, and even a giant bathroom which made the guests appear as if they'd become toys in a giant bathtub. But if you were a fan of Sonic the Hedgehog, or even just video games in general, the ride was about to pull its epic moment. It was at this point the ride switched theme from traditional classic toys to what was then a high-tech home entertainment system, the Sega Mega Drive and Master System. As guests entered this particular room, they would be greeted by Sonic the Hedgehog, standing atop a giant controller. Huge rings would light up above the guests, and a remixed Sonic theme would play as the guests went by. Back in 1994, this was a very impressive set piece. Sonic's head would move from left to right, his foot would tap, and he would even operate the controller using a joystick. Huge TVs displaying video from Sonic Spinball, CD and Sonic 3 also hung from the walls and would play random segments of gameplay. If you were a fan and you didn't know this was there, this was a huge surprise. At the time, there was nothing like this anywhere in the park, no acknowledgement of video games in any respect. Yet, here was a whole section of the ride dedicated to that form of entertainment. For those who had even the slightest interest in gaming, this was undoubtedly a very cool section. However, the Sonic attraction had a problem which became apparent by the end of the first year. As mentioned previously, the ride was Master System and Mega Drive themed. Whilst the Master System was a huge seller in the UK, by 1994 it was a very dated looking system. The Mega Drive was also quite an old system by this time, and with the PlayStation releasing at the end of the year, it was only going to look even more dated. There was only so long that the Sonic section of the ride could carry on before it was deemed too out of date. The attraction itself also started to suffer from problems. The Sonic statue began to develop mechanical failure, and gradually over time, the statue's movement began to reduce until parts of it completely failed. And by the time the ride closed down in 2005, the statue had barely any movement, except for his foot, which would occasionally tap if you happened to be passing by at the right time. After the ride closed down, it was replaced with a Charlie and the Chocolate Factory themed ride. It was very similar to Toyland Tours, except this time guests would sail around Wonka's chocolate factory instead of a toy factory. The ride, however, would end very differently to Toyland Tours. Previously, guests would just exit at a station, but this time they had the option to go into a simulator where they would experience flying in Wonka's Great Glass Elevator. As expected though, there was no trace of anything from Toyland Tours in this ride, and the fate of the Sonic statue and the controller are still unknown to this date, but it seems very unlikely that they're still intact. Despite this, one part of the attraction did survive: the music. The Sonic remix, which was made for the ride, actually got released on CD and cassette as part of a larger soundtrack of Alton Towers ride music. Sadly, this soundtrack is now out of print, but the music is easily findable online. In the years after the ride's closure, Alton Towers and Sega never collaborated again, and with Sega scaling back its operations in the UK, the idea of a big theme park attraction seemed extremely unlikely. But then, in November 2009, something happened. Users of the Alton Towers fan site, Towers Times, reported that for the 2010 season, an old ride named Spinball Whizzer was going to be rethemed. Then a few weeks later, another user claimed that he had overheard Alton Towers staff talking about the ride being rethemed to Sonic Spinball. Then in December 2009, an account was created named Sonic the Hedgehog and began posting what appeared to be troll-like spam posts, hinting at a Sonic ride and Sonic collaboration with the park. This account would later post more information about the deal, including information about a Sonic-themed hotel room, something that nobody had anticipated. At the time, Alton Towers had 2 hotels on its property, the Splash Landings Hotel and the Alton Towers Hotel Resort, both of which had themed rooms, and rooms themed off third-party properties. Then in January 2010, it was officially confirmed. Alton Towers and Sega announced that a partnership was underway. However, the initial deal only included the retheming of Spinball Whizzer to Sonic Spinball. It wasn't until a few weeks later that a hotel room was finally confirmed. This blew many fans away at the time. Many fans also speculated that there might even be uniquely themed ride merchandise, and when bookings for the hotel opened, a number of fans, including myself, booked stays and trips to the park. It was, however, a very expensive stay. Depending on the season date, it would cost you anywhere between £200 and £300 for the room per night. For its preview week, Sega invited a bunch of fans who ran various Sonic and Sega fan sites to attend the park, see the room, and ride the attraction. Even a Sonic mascot character was in attendance, who would stick around the park for several years after the ride opened, greeting guests and posing for photographs. The ride itself was a re-theme of the old Spinball Whizzer ride. Spinball Whizzer was a wild spinning roller coaster which gave guests the illusion that they were trapped on a giant pinball machine being bounced around at high speeds. Guests would sit in cars built for 4 people, which would spin around and turn as they went down steep drops and up steep embankments. It was quite a wild and rough ride for anyone that went on it. The ride also offered guests on-ride photos, and when developed these would come in a special Sonic frame. Some of these frames are now highly sought after by Sonic merch collectors. The area around the ride also had a few smaller attractions. A pair of UFO claw catcher machines were set up, which were very easy to win. Even when I attended the park a month after it opened, I won nearly £200 worth of plushies from only a handful of tries. At the end of the preview day, guests were invited to the Splash Landings Hotel to celebrate the ride's opening. Food and drink were provided, along with the option to play the latest Sega games. However, it didn't all go according to plan. For those who attended the after-party event, they reported that it was quite close in proximity to the Splash Landings water park. Because of this, after a prolonged period of time, the consoles that were set up would actually crash due to the hot temperature and humid conditions. A few years after the ride opened, a small refreshment stand was built nearby, Spinball Noodles. This offered guests a variety of soft drinks and also small noodle boxes. The hotel room was also quite elaborate, containing a large double bed with a one-of-a-kind made Sonic Spinball-themed duvet. Around the room was emerald-shaped lamps and even a palm tree from the Green Hill Zone. Other decorations involved golden rings and a Sonic-themed window blind. But the most elaborate feature of all was a huge mural painted on the wall depicting Sonic from Sonic 4 Episode 1. At the time, Sonic 4 had yet to be announced, and many of the fans who attended the preview week actually guessed correctly that this was depicting Sonic from an unannounced video game. The room also sported a large HD TV, in which a Nintendo Wii, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 was connected with a large library of Sonic games. The lobby would even provide you with controllers and games in an official Sega laptop bag, which would also become a highly sought-after collectibles item. The room even contained a special drawer, which was locked with a combination lock, and the only way to get the combination was to solve the clues that were displayed on a plaque on the wall. However, many fans found that this drawer would just open if you pulled it hard enough. For the first week that the room was open, the drawer contained Sonic Arts books which had been given away at the previous year's Summer of Sonic convention. It also contained specially made Spinball Whizzer t-shirts, as well as a selection of chocolates. But when I visited a month later, they'd stopped giving away the arts books, and also stopped giving away the t-shirts. What was now available in the drawer was a selection of chocolates and fast passes for the Sonic Spinball ride. However, by far the most significant feature of the room was not a decoration, it was a voice. Upon entering the room, Sonic himself would greet you.
Hey, welcome to my room. Keep your eye out for Dr. Eggman now. Let's go! Whoa!
When someone entered the room between the hours of 9 AM and 6 PM, a music chime played and Sonic would greet the visitor with a random phrase. Many fans at the time laughed because this voice sounded so bad. It was very slow and very deep. Then about a week after I visited the park, Sega announced that the Sonic voice cast had changed and that the voice at Alton Towers was going to be Sonic's new voice. This sent shockwaves throughout the Sonic community. Many of them were horrified because of all the audio recordings they'd heard of the Alton Towers Sonic voice. However, due to the limitations of the room's speaker, The voice was actually coming out not as recorded. It was very slow, very deep, and sometimes quite distorted. Shortly after this announcement, some fans claimed they'd seen a TV advert for the Alton Towers Sonic experience. They reported that the Sonic voice in the advert was much clearer and a lot faster in pace. Many fans were very reassured, but sadly, the only surviving recording of this advert is one which was taken at very low quality and is near unwatchable. Even to this date, Roger Craig Smith will often mock his Alton Sonic voice if you ask him to do an impression of it.
All of you guys out there, check out the consoles! Whoa!
Oh, yeah.
In fact, the phrase "check out the consoles" became a short-term meme in the Sonic community due to how bad it sounded. As great as the room was, it did have its problems. Many guests complained how it wasn't very family-friendly due to how small and cramped it was. Others noted that the room became extremely hot, even at night, and often electric fans were requested by guests. Despite the problems that were reported regarding staying in the room, this was not reflected in the price. Many fans quickly realised that the price to stay in the Sonic hotel room was exactly the same to stay in one of the other hotel rooms which were themed and for special occasions. This led many to notice that other themed hotel rooms at the resort were much larger, much cooler according to guests that had stayed in them, and much better suited to large groups and families. Many fans said afterwards, whilst it was cool to stay in a Sonic-themed hotel room and to have the novelty of saying, "I've stayed there," if they had the choice to stay at another themed room at Alton Towers, a large proportion of Sonic fans said they would not stay in the Sonic room again due to the issues they had with it. Despite the problems with the room, both it and the ride proved to be very popular, but shortly after it opened, there were signs that the partnership between Sega and Alton Towers had a few limitations. Many fans had hoped from the announcement that there would be lots of uniquely themed Sonic Spinball merchandise, and the park did provide some, but it wasn't quite what fans were expecting. The first piece of merchandise that was made available was a limited edition Sonic Spinball t-shirt, which are now quite highly sought after. They were available to every single guest that attended the preview week, and for guests that stayed in the hotel room, they also received a t-shirt. This, however, stopped after 2 weeks. The rest of the guests that attended also had the option to get the on-ride photos, which came in the Sonic Spinball themed frames, and the main gift shop also had some Sonic Spinball themed mugs. And that was pretty much all they did. The park did stock a lot of Sonic items in its gift shop, however the vast majority of these were t-shirts and smaller figures, which were easily available in shops outside of the park's gates. There was, however, one exception which did catch some fans' eyes. In the second year of the partnership, a Sonic fan attended Alton Towers on its opening week, and posted an image of something that he'd bought at the gift shop. It was an Alton Towers Sonic Spinball themed medal. Alton Towers had been selling these for a few years now for other rides and attractions, the idea being that guests could buy them to claim that they had ridden a scary or thrilling experience, and they just so happened to make one for Alton Towers' Sonic Spinball ride. However, 2 weeks later, several Sonic fans went to the park for a trip and reported that they couldn't find the medals anywhere. Even I made a second visit, and the medals were gone. Even the staff at the store said they didn't have any in stock, there were none in the back room, and they didn't know if they would ever get them back in. And they didn't. And from that day onwards, no unique Sonic merch was ever spotted at the park, prompting many to guess that Sega had ordered Alton Towers to stop manufacturing and selling uniquely themed merchandise with Sonic on it. The only other merchandise which was for sale, which had anything to do with Alton Towers, was the Spinball mugs and the photo frames that you got with the on-ride photos. Sadly, despite the scale of the partnership, and even the extension of it from 3 years to 6, both the ride and the room started to show their age very quickly. Some of the problems that the room suffered were similar to those which Toyland Tours had endured. A big problem with the hotel room was that the mural was Sonic 4 themed, a game which had been panned by both critics and fans, and if you'd played Sonic 4, or if you didn't think it was a very good game, the room did lose a little bit of its cool factor when you went in there and discovered that the primary theming was based on Sonic 4 Episode 1. And speaking of video games, when the room first opened, the games which were on offer to guests to play, only a handful of them were what you could consider to be new titles, and after the first year, the game selection seemed very old and very outdated, and during the course of the room's life, the games were never updated with more recent titles. Another issue with the hotel room was that all 3 consoles in the room would get successors during the hotel's lifespan, making the consoles look somewhat outdated by only 3 years into the hotel room's life. The ride itself also had problems right from the first year. Because it was a re-theme of a previously existing ride that had been at the park operating for years, it was quite common for Sonic Spinball to break down, prompting fans to laugh as Sonic told them to,
Hey guys, we've just had to stop spinning for a moment. A member of staff will be with you real soon. In the meantime, please keep your arms and legs inside the car. Once again, a member of staff will soon be with you. Keep your arms and legs inside the car. Thanks, guys.
In the ride's waiting line, there were several mini-games and smaller side attractions that fans could play as they waited to board the ride. However, before the end of the first year, many of these mini-games and attractions just simply broke, or in some cases were completely destroyed and removed. Another issue was vandalism. There was a giant Sonic statue which was a mini photo op right in front of the ride. However, before the end of the first year, the statue was damaged repeatedly, and at one time it had to be completely removed so it could be fixed for a short period of time. As time went on, guests started to notice signs that the ride was likely not going to last much longer. During the 2014 season, entire sections of theming had been completely removed, and large trees had been planted around the ride, effectively hiding it from view unless you walked completely around them. And by the end of 2015, the ride's future looked very grim. When the 2016 season opened, Spinball Whizzer was still there, but the Sonic theming and branding had been completely removed. Despite the 2016 season effectively wiping all traces of Sonic the Hedgehog from the theme park, there was still one Sonic experience guests could go to, and that was the hotel room. The hotel room was still taking bookings and was still open for guests to stay out for an entire year after the ride was themed back to its original Spinball Whizzer. However, this didn't last for long. The room stopped taking bookings in January of 2017, and soon after, all traces of the room were removed from Alton Towers' website. It looked as if Sonic the Hedgehog had never been at Alton Towers. Despite the removal of the ride theming and the hotel room in its entirety from the resort, there is still signs of Sonic the Hedgehog at the theme park if you know where to look. Alton Towers has a building called Magic HQ, which is the main staff canteen area for the park. Whilst this building isn't accessible to the public, it is viewable if you take the Sky Ride attraction. And if you happen to look in the right place as you're passing by, you can still see the Sonic statue standing next to the building. It's been spotted by a number of guests who have ridden this ride. Sadly, none of them have been able to get pictures of it, but it is definitely still there. So if you take the Sky Ride attraction, as you pass a giant green building that's Magic HQ, keep an eye out and you just might see a subtle reminder that Sonic used to wander the park. So, with 2 successful partnerships completed, which were both very popular with guests and fans, what does the future hold for Sega at Alton Towers? Sadly, not a lot. Neither Sega or Alton Towers have expressed or even hinted at the possibility of working together again. There have, however, been some commenters, and even Sega themselves have hinted that they want to see Sonic in more theme parks around the world. There have even been numerous reports that Sega has, or at least was, working on a Sonic-themed virtual reality roller coaster. However, the location of this roller coaster has not yet been disclosed, and with very little information on it since, it seems unlikely that this is going ahead. But one glimmer of hope came from the 25th anniversary Sonic birthday party. It was mentioned on the live stream that they are looking to expand Sonic into more theme park areas.
A lot of things going on around the brand, and also in the theme park space. I can't say too much quite yet, but there's some things brewing that hopefully we can talk about in the not too distant future that I think the fans will really like.
So it does seem likely that even if it's not at Alton Towers, Sega and Sonic the Hedgehog will likely partner with another theme park again. So who knows, maybe we'll get to check out the consoles again one day. Hey guys, if you liked this video and would like to continue the adventures, please follow me on Twitter or Instagram. Links to both can be found in the video description. If you'd like to help support the channel, why not buy me a coffee at the link below? Every coffee donation is a huge help to supporting the work I do, and it helps me get videos and other content out faster. Even the smallest donation can help keep this channel going. Thank you.